welcome back to Beerfield Fantasy Football. I am your host, Ad Hot BFF, with 2Ps coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri, with Thury BFF, 2 Fs, Springfield, Illinois, enjoying his day off, I'm sure.
Oh, very much so.
Good. Day without work is good. I was in training all day, so... by the way, awesome move, kind of a dirtbag move, but an awesome move. If you ever want breakfast and you're near a hotel, just walk in and act like you stayed the night.
So true.
I don't know if you've ever pulled that one off, but yeah, that I wanted breakfast this morning and needed a place to drink coffee, so I acted like I'd been out for a morning walk and came in and snagged myself some breakfast, so...
that's just being more resourceful than it is being a dirtbag.
Yeah, you get it.
I know, but it's not like they would have been like, "Sorry, sir, you can't have this. I need to see your room key first."
Yeah, actually, full disclosure, I did not do that. I met some friends this morning, but I have done that before. I actually did that about a year ago, 6 months ago. So
that's funny.
Anyway, pro tips from me. You can follow the show, Beerfield FF, Twitter, Instagram, Untapped, Beerfield Fantasy Football, Facebook, and YouTube. YouTube, where all the action goes down, live cameras during the show, Sunday live streams at 11 a.m. We got our normal Week 10 gamut today. Start sits, all the news and injury talk we can get to. So let's go ahead and start off with what we're drinking today, and then we'll actually get into the meat potatoes and start talking some football.
What's fueling Beerfield?
All right, Dan, you're paying up.
Yeah, so I'm drinking White Claw, the black cherry flavor, as my punishment for Josh Allen not finishing as a top 12 quarterback. More of my thoughts on hard seltzer later.
All right. And I'm drinking Hancock's Bourbon. I picked this up last week. Hancock's is the unadvertised child of Buffalo Trace's mash bill, too, which gives you like Blanton's and Elmer T. Lee and a few other things. But they don't advertise this. They don't put this one on their site. There's not a whole huge backstory on it or anything like that. So I will let you know what I think when we get really through the news and the hangovers, I guess. All right, let's go ahead and hit the news first.
News.
All right, starting off, Redskins doing something smart. Dwayne Haskins is expected to start in Week 11 for Washington, and I say smart not because he's been great or world-beating or anything, but because that's the only way at this point that he's going to develop, and they're going to be able to see what they have in their early-round draft pick. Looked better this past week, but offense was still very, very inept.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lost season. You have guys coming back, might as well start throwing out your younger franchise build-around players and see what you have.
Yep, and that's going to be Haskins, Geis, and Terry McLaurin, really. So,
yep,
use them. The Vikings claimed Andrew Sendejo off waivers from the Eagles. This is more just here for you.
Quote, he may still not use his arms. He's not been very good with the Eagles this year, I guess. I haven't watched a lot of Philadelphia games.
No, it's like whole secondary has been bad, but I think the familiar with Harrison Smith and the defense might actually boost the Vikings a little bit.
Yeah, this is mainly because Anthony Harris has kind of taken a step back. He looked good in relief time last year, and he looked good early on in the year. You need to bring somebody in who can kind of, give you a little bit more than what the secondary has given them.
Yep. All right, Gary Jennings was claimed off waivers by the Dolphins after being cut by the Seahawks. This is interesting in the sense that more for Dynasty, look for flashes out of Jennings. He's a guy that we were both, I won't say high on, but we weren't cold on him either. We thought that he had some prospects and could potentially develop into more of a depth piece in the NFL that could give you some fantasy relevant weeks. And with Preston Williams out, there's going to be opportunity here. So just keep an eye on this. More so for Dynasty than anything. If you're a rebuilding team and you're just taking flyers on players that might catch, do it.
I mean, he was an early day 3 pick. He posted the second highest Sparks score. Shout out to Nick Sparks amongst all receivers in this draft class. So he's athletic. We get that. And as you mentioned, there's not a lot of future pieces on this roster, so might as well see what you got in the guy who could look the part.
Exactly. Matt Nagy admitted Trey Burton is not 100% recovered for offseason groin surgery, so that explains a lot.
Yeah, I think he had 4 targets is a season high in a game this year.
Yeah, and not over 20 yards and no touchdowns.
And he put up a dud last week. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's put up a dud every week. So
well, I know.
safe bet.
Or not dud. He put up a goose egg last week.
Goose egg. Yeah.
Yes.
Which, yeah. Eagles signed wide receiver Jordan Matthews, speaking of reunions, and this is just like that ex you can always just call up when you need to feel wanted again.
This is your 2 a.m.
Yeah.
This is the girl or guy that you just can't quit, even though they're just not the future for you.
Nope. Yeah, that's what Jordan Matthews and the Eagles right there to a T.
This doesn't solve their field stretching problem, but okay.
Not at all. Just give him another guy that can work out of the slot and underneath, I guess, if they have to use Aguilar outside.
I guess.
Freddie Kitchens admitted Nick Chubb's touches could take a hit with the addition of Kareem Hunt, so
it's fucking stupid.
Yeah, that's been your one consistent piece. I mean, I guess Kareem Hunt could see a role in the passing game and maybe hurt him a little bit there. And, I mean, Hunt's been good, so from an NFL standpoint, I don't know why you wouldn't use him. I mean, we all know what happened from a personal perspective and everything, but from an NFL standpoint, guy was a superstar. So I don't know why you wouldn't use him and then try to parlay that into something. But
I mean, you can find there's more than enough ways to keep them both involved.
Yep.
In this offense, and then just using them both at the same time because they give you 2 different dynamic skill sets.
Yeah. The Dolphins had something called a Delance Turner off their practice squad, named No, I guess.
Okay.
So now you know it, because I guarantee nobody did before now.
Nope.
Nick Foles has been
activated. First.
Yeah. You heard it here first. Nick Foles has been activated with IR and will start per Doug Marrone. So, we talked about this at length on Monday, so I don't want to spend a ton of time on it. But basically what you get from Nick Foles is you don't know what you get from Nick Foles. You got like one drive of good football, but you don't really know how things are going to gel with Nick Foles and the players and where his targets are going to go. Fournette's still going to be a safe bet, obviously, but with what Chark has done, a lot of that with Minshew at the helm, you're going to have to keep an eye on that. Does it maybe flip to D.D. Westbrook is what some people were potentially thinking. So just you're going to have to watch and potentially recalibrate on this Jags offense and recalibrate quick as we head to the playoffs.
Yeah, like it sounds like it's, Foles got hurt throwing his touchdown to Chark. So I think I'm not going to sit there and say that Chark is completely fine, but he's the one receiver I'm not that concerned about.
No, he's obviously what you default to given the productivity, but just point to stand, and maybe you don't have to recalibrate. Maybe it is the same, but it's a guy you haven't really seen in the offense for more than one drive. So
yeah, I'm not.
Maybe Chark sustains and Westbrook becomes relevant.
That's true. Like from what we've seen from Foles in his past, he likes, a guy that likes to push, who can push the ball downfield. But we spoke about this in length, and we've given our thoughts about this. If you want to know more, just go back and listen to the Minshew, argument on Monday.
Yeah, it was a spirited discussion.
It was a spirited discussion based around things that neither one of us really wanted to talk about, but needed to bring up. So
yep. So you can get full thoughts there. That is on Monday's episode, which you can find on YouTube, Spotify, Untapped, all those fun places.
All those fun places.
The Jets signed running back Josh Adams from their practice squad, not because of anything to do with Le'Veon Bell, per Adam Schefter, but to block another team from signing him. Probably the Dolphins.
Because people are just
lining up
there to sign undrafted running back from last year, Josh Adams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So good for them, I guess. All right, on to hangovers and injury news, where there is definitely some interesting tidbits as well as some very fantasy relevant ones.
Hangovers.
Washington activated Darius Geist from IR. You've got another buy window on Geist right now, as people have been tepid on him. If you would like to go out and kick the tires on that, we'll see how he fits in with Adrian Peterson. Peterson's had his bad weeks. He did just have a decently good week, but he is activated, and we'll get to see a bit more of him and see what he can do.
Yeah. Waivers have probably already run for the majority of the leagues out there, but if you still out there, go out,
Grab him for free.
Just grab them for free. Just like we talked about with Haskins, there's no reason for Washington to see what they have in a 33-year-old running back. They got to see what they got in their second round pick from last year.
Yep. Patrick Mahomes, full participant in practice. This was always expected to be his return week. So
yep,
he'll be back. Ito Smith sidelined with a neck injury. I don't like either of the Falcons backs against the Saints, really, anyway.
Yep.
Amari Cooper is going to play week 10 against the Vikings. This is after he dinged up his knee, but then returned to the game on Monday.
This is the battle of two franchises that really need a key win.
Yep.
A key signature win this year.
It'll be a good game, and there's a few of them this week.
Oh, yes, it will be.
You got O.J. Howard, a full practice participant. That's Tampa Bay has Arizona, so that's a plus matchup. More on that in a minute.
This is the second year in a row I get to miss of a Vikings Sunday night game because of a team meet or of a store meeting.
That sucks.
Yep. Not happy.
Brandon Cooks has been ruled out against the Steelers as he deals with concussion still. Matthew Stafford limited in practice, hip and back injuries. I expect him to play. Corey Davis missed Wednesday's practice, but he missed with a hip issue. He missed last Wednesday's and still played, so don't expect him to miss time. You're just getting to that part of the season where a lot of these missed practices earlier in the week are more maintenance than anything.
Yeah. You look like we jumped over O.J. Howard and Chris Herndon.
I didn't jump over Howard because I mentioned him being a good matchup against Arizona. I jumped over Herndon. He was still sidelined. He's expected to make his return this week, though.
Sounds good.
And actually play this week. But if you want, do you have anything you wanted to say about Howard, though?
No. I mean, I think we'll get to him when you.
We will.
I think when you talk about him later on in the show. So no, we're good.
Yep. Really, really prepped for that.
Yes.
Traquan Smith, Alvin Kamara, and Jared Cook all returned to Saints practice for the Saints, so they should be at full strength. It is a plus matchup, so if you need a dart throw for some of these guys we're going to talk about missing here in a minute, Traquan Smith should be at least decently available and worth it. So, David Johnson, and Jared Cook's also not a bad streaming option. David Johnson declared himself 100% and is going to play against the Bucs. He'll immediately plug back into your lineup. Kenyan Drake, I'd expect to see more out of Kenyan Drake, more kind of what we were seeing out of Chase Edmonds, but what we saw with him and the Dolphins, where he's still going to see touches and he's still going to have week-to-week flex value.
More on David Johnson later.
Yep. Delaney Walker remains sidelined for the Titans, but he did shed his walking boot. He is not expected to play week 10. Johnny Smith is another solid streaming option.
They just need to shut down Walker for the year.
They do. There's no reason for it.
Yep.
Curtis Samuel not practicing on Wednesday. Really sounds like AJ Green's just not going to play a game for the Bengals this year with free agency leaving. Zach Taylor says he didn't feel well enough to practice after a report that he was for sure making his season debut. So I think Green is done with the Bengals, and I don't think you see him on the field this season. Not saying cut him, keep him stashed. You'll be able to keep him on IR again, but this just screams of I'm going to milk this ankle injury and hit free agency and go from there.
I think you'll maybe see him play one or two games just to give teams a little bit of a glimpse and hope that he still got it.
So maybe you get him back by the playoffs.
So he can make some money during the offseason.
So maybe you get him back by the fantasy playoffs.
Maybe. And that's I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't, if he pulls this until late into the year, looking at week 14, 15, like you said, with the playoffs.
Yeah.
Maybe even later than that.
Yep. Adam Thielen sidelined at Wednesday's practice with a hamstring issue. Zimmer says he doesn't expect it to be long-term, but I fully don't expect him to play this week.
Yeah, I think it's already been reported.
I think he is out.
He's not going to play. Yeah.
T.Y. Hilton is also probably going to be out this week with calf injury still.
I think that's been reported. He's out for the week.
Yeah. So Evan Engram, bad news for him, mid-foot sprain. He's considered week to week, and we've seen foot injuries keep people off the field for quite a bit.
Yeah, they may want to look at shutting him down. You already know who he is, so you don't need to give him these unneeded,
Right.
work with a team that's not going to obviously make the playoffs this year.
Oh, Sterling Shepard missing time. All that does is boost Golden Tate more.
Yeah, and Darius Slayton,
And Slayton.
I guess.
Yeah, if you believe in that sort of thing.
Sure.
Matt Ryan limited in practice. He's still trying to recover from an ankle injury. Don't read anything into that.
Nope.
Sterling Shepard, we just mentioned, he's not practicing still with a concussion, nor should he be. Jacoby Brissett practiced in limited fashion. He's fully expected to play.
I think he'll play.
Yeah.
I think if they get up early, you may see them. You may see him get pulled for Brian Hoyer, but I think he'll play.
Or they'll just protect him with runs. Marlon Mack this week.
Yes.
Le'Veon Bell did not practice knee and ankle injuries. He's expected to play Sunday. He had an MRI, but he was lobbying to practice today per Adam Gase, who didn't even know anything about the MRI until it happened. He's just sore.
God, I really need the Jets to just let Gase go.
I do too.
Let this whole thing end, please.
We have a list of people we want to see fired.
Yes.
Hey, maybe that's a good topic for Monday.
Maybe.
Josh Jacobs practiced in full on Tuesday. He's been nursing a shoulder injury, kind of like Matt Ryan. No risk of him really missing time. He's been playing through it, but they are going to nurse him throughout the weekend to get to Sundays.
Yep.
Sean Jackson was placed on IR following core muscle surgery. That was fully expected. That's why Jordan Matthews is signed. He hadn't played since week 1.
Yeah.
George Kittle not practicing Tuesday with a knee injury. Much like Jacobs and Ryan, he's been playing through this. So
he'll play.
Panthers, in a not surprise move, placed Cam Newton on IR. So it'll be Kyle Allen rest of the season.
I've been hearing reports this could be his last time with them.
I'd imagine it is, honestly. Especially if Kyle Allen keeps playing and they feel like he can be a bridge quarterback, and with the depth of the quarterback class this year. So I don't know that they'll have necessarily that great of a draft pick. But I mean, with the depth of the quarterback class, they could, take a project. And if they believe in Kyle Allen and he continues to win them games and he's serviceable and you're building your offense around Christian McCaffrey, you could afford to cut bait.
Yeah, and then even if you miss out on getting a quarterback this year, there's still a strong class in 2021, and there's also, quarterbacks, young quarterbacks that you could potentially trade for that has looked good this year.
Gardner Minshew. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And James Conner, limited practice to begin the week, should ramp up as the week goes on, per what Mike Tomlin is saying.
Yeah.
All right, that covers that. Let's go ahead and get to starts and sits. So,
buttons.
Yeah, buttons.
Top shelf or rail.
All right, we're going to go ahead and burn through start, sits, and streams. Most of you that have been playing fantasy to this point kind of know what's a good matchup and what's not, but we'll call out some people. Let's go ahead and start with David Montgomery against the Lions.
Lions have given up over 34 points per game to running backs over the past 4 weeks, so positive matchup from that standpoint. And Montgomery snaps every season high over the past 2 games, I think upwards in the mid-70s. He's also saw a season carries 2 weeks ago. 9 targets over his past 2 games. I think we're finally seeing the full usage of Montgomery that we expected from early on in this year.
Yeah, Montgomery has picked it up too the last couple weeks. So, plus matchup against the Lions looks good for him as he continues to progress in his rookie year.
Yep.
And they're at home, so that's also a plus, I guess. I've got Jamison Crowder going against the Giants, and this one's pretty easy. Jamison Crowder is by far leading the Jets in targets, by far been their most serviceable receiver. They're going up against a bad defense with a pass, but the Giants, unlike the Redskins and the Dolphins, have a pass offense that can put up points and keep this close or even keep the Jets chasing. So I expect the volume to be there again for Jamison Crowder against a bad Giants defense.
I expect this to be a very fantasy-friendly but very ugly all-around game.
I agree with that entirely. You could very well have Crowder, Robbie Anderson, Slayton as a dart throw, and Golden Tate all relevant, as well as Saquon Barkley and Lev Bell.
And the defenses because
both
quarterbacks are turnover prone.
Yep. All right, you got Michael Gallup against the Vikings.
Yep. So it's very well documented that the Vikings secondary is struggling at this point. They've given up over 40 points per game to receivers over the past 4 weeks. This includes over 100 yards per game to the position and 6 touchdowns during that same span. Well, Michael Gallup's targets have taken a hit since this nice start to the year. The Vikings can easily push the pace to keep the Cowboys passing. Both teams are looking to make a statement win, which means both teams can go more up tempo.
Yeah, I think this will be more up-tempo than anything. These are two teams that match up, I think, in skill pretty evenly. They both have stud running backs. They both have quarterbacks that can be a little up and down at times with good wide receivers and league average defenses that have the potential to be better than that.
And what we've seen from Dallas this year, they have started out games pretty poorly, which has put them behind, which means more for passing. Is always good.
It is always good.
Receivers.
Speaking of more passing, that's the reason Corey Davis is my second start of the week against Kansas City. Kansas City hasn't been giving up a ton to wide receivers, especially not since Mahomes went down. It's kind of the same thing we saw at Pittsburgh. The quarterback goes down and the defense decides to step their game up as a whole. Kind of a weird thing. Saints did it too. I don't know why that's a thing, but that's happened prominently with 3 teams now. So if it's anything like the Steelers and the Saints, Kansas City may not let off the gas defensively, but there's going to be volume here. Kansas City was very bad to start the season, and we know that Ryan Tannehill has some hungry eyes for Corey Davis. So not the most ringing endorsement, but he's a guy that should get some volume that, with Thielen out and, AJ Green not really being a factor, but T.Y. Hilton out and some other questionables and bye weeks and things like that, you can feel comfortable plugging in Corey Davis.
Yeah.
On volume alone. All right, you got Zach Pascal against the Dolphins with T.Y. Hilton out.
Yeah, so Dolphins have given up 7 touchdowns to wide receivers over the past 4 games, and also have given up 36 points per game to the position during that span as well. Pascal was on the field 94% of the time last week against the Steelers. While the Dolphins should be a pushover win with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback, they've been in more games than they probably should be. It wouldn't surprise me if the Dolphins compete throughout the game, potentially making the Colts pass more, and plus no Xavier Howard, which makes everything better for the receivers.
All right, I'm gonna take a look at Christian Kirk here, and I agree with Zach Pascal as well. He's been the most reliable second option there when T.Y. Hilton's been out.
Yep.
Christian Kirk against Tampa Bay. This is just recipe for a bounce back. Tyler Lockett went off majorly playing the slot. DK Metcalf went off outside against this Tampa Bay defense where the secondary has kind of regressed from the first few weeks. So Christian Kirk getting the most target volume on the Cardinals. You got David Johnson back, which should take some of the attention away from him, and the addition of Kenyan Drake. And Kirk's really overtaken Fitzgerald as the target leader here. So it's a plus matchup. So go ahead and put the top guy out there and see what you get.
Yeah, I love this call.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to sits. You've got Devonta Freeman against New Orleans that I mentioned with the Ito Smith news. I did not like this matchup for Atlanta at all.
Yeah. To me, this one's pretty simple. The Saints have been really good against running backs over the past 4 weeks, and on the season as a whole, they've given up less than 500 yards over their first 8 games this year, and only 3 rushing touchdowns. They've only given up 97 rushing yards over the past 3 games and no rushing touchdowns. And while Freeman's involvement in the passing game should give him a decent floor, the chances for a 100-yard game or even an 80-yard game and a touchdown just seems lost to me. You may get an okay floor week from him, but I do not expect an RB2 or even an RB3 game from him.
Yep, I would completely agree with that. I've got Austin Eckler against Oakland, and this seems plus, but the Raiders have allowed under 15 points to running backs, so the team's top running backs over the last 5 weeks, and under 10 in 3 of the last 5. You saw Melvin Gordon kind of take over in touches, and the Chargers have the chance to, I don't want to say walk with this game. I think this game's going to be closer than people think, which will keep the teams passing more. So it's a little bit bold saying sit Eckler, who's been good, but I think as the team transitions more toward Melvin Gordon, especially in the red zone, and the fact that the Raiders have gotten progressively better against the run, Austin Eckler, if you could probably do better than him this week. I mean, maybe might not be able to, but if you're trying to make a tough decision involving Austin Eckler, go ahead and lean away from that one, given what the Raiders have not allowed recently.
Yeah.
Because, a top game of 14.3 points to a back is not great.
No, it's not.
All right. Odell Beckham against the Bills. Another thing I like, especially given how well Tre'Davious White's played.
Another tough matchup for Odell. He gets, as you mentioned, Tre'Davious White, who we all know is one of the best cover corners in the league. In fact, he's yet to give up over 60 yards to any receiver this year. Yes, this includes Josh Gordon, Corey Davis, and Alshon Jeffrey. They're not elite receivers, but they're good ones. It's also clear that Baker just favored Jarvis Landry more. Odell has just 3 games over 10 targets this season. He has 13 total targets over his past 2 games. And this is compared to Landry, who saw 13 targets just this past week. Until we see the Browns and Mayfield make a true effort to feature Odell more, he's no longer a must-start, and he's a person you can't just view as a wide receiver 2 anymore, especially in tough matchups.
All right, I'm looking Joe Mixon against Baltimore as a sit. Mixon's really only had 1 good week here all season. But Baltimore's a tough matchup. Yeah, James White was okay against them, but they held Sony Michel in check, and they haven't been giving up a ton to the run. And I expect the Bengals to be playing from behind. You're going to see what you have in Ryan Finley there. But I do not expect Joe Mixon to have a big game, especially with how bad that offensive line is. And I don't want to touch it and risk getting a dud.
So Joe Mixon's a lot like Devonta Freeman, where you're hoping for pass catching floor.
Yep.
To leave him. He's got 2 receiving touchdowns over his last 2 games, but he has yet to think he hasn't put up over 70 rushing yards. No. I think he's had 1 game over 100 scrimmage yards. So,
yep,
not going to get production out of him.
You're hoping for a touchdown, and that's not the way you want to structure lineups unless you just desperately need to start somebody.
Yeah.
Thank you, Darren Fells. All right.
Yes, every week.
Yeah. All right. David Johnson against the Bucs.
It's looking like David Johnson starting to make his return against the Bucs. It's Sunday. The Bucs have been great against running backs all year, though, and this hasn't changed over the past 4 weeks. They've given up just over 200 rushing yards on the ground and 1 rushing touchdown, and also just 10 targets in the receiving game and 1 receiving touchdown. Not a lot of production there. Johnson claims to be 100%, which is good for his owners. What's not good, though, is Kenyan Drake coming off of a great debut against an even better rush defense in the 49ers. While I do expect Johnson to be the starter here if he plays, will not surprise me if Drake gets to Chase Edmonds plus role and taking on only first and second down work, but even some pass catching work. I don't like either player this week. I just need to see what the roles are going to look like now with Johnson back.
Yeah. The roles are going to be interesting. I don't know if they try to protect David Johnson. We've seen him use Chase Edmonds more, Kenyan Drake. We saw him be very, very efficient in this offense last week. So I think he's at least earned the ability to not be completely taken out of the equation. And you're absolutely right. While the Bucs pass defense has been not great, the run defense has been good. And they're similar to kind of Oakland in that way. So yeah.
You got to pass to keep up with them. I mean, this is a top 3 to 5 passing offense. You can pass against them with a really bad secondary and just not a great front 7. So teams don't need to run against them because they score early on and they force you to play a little more up tempo or to change your game plan around. It just makes the trade for Kenyan Drake to me just even more like it just doesn't make sense. If Johnson was 1 week away from coming back,
right?
Last season. So again, I don't like either player this week, but David Johnson is the more higher profile guy at this point, so I threw him in here.
Yep. I'm going to go DK Metcalf against San Francisco. So Tyler Lockett primarily playing out of the slot is not going to draw Richard Sherman, who has the quarterbacks have the worst passer rating basically going against him. You also, San Francisco hasn't given up anything to wide receivers. Under 10 points allowed for the last 5 weeks. The only person to go above that was Andy Isabella, and that was off of 1 reception and 1 touchdown. So,
which could be Tyler Lockett this week.
Right. A lot of people right now are probably going to try to chase DK Metcalf points. This ain't the week to do it.
No, this is an ugly This is ugly.
So be a good
This
game.
could be a shootout. Like, to me, I wouldn't be shocked if this is a shootout and all, and both receivers look good. I also wouldn't be shocked if the Niners just completely put the
Steamroll it.
clamps down, or they lean on their running game, as we just mentioned about Kenyan Drake, who went off against the same defense this past Thursday night. You could be seeing, little more success with Chris Carson. You may even see a little bit more of the older school Seattle if they can get up early.
Yep. And I think that's how they have to try to win is Chris Carson, Tyler Lockett over the middle, not going up against one of the outside corners. But DK Metcalf will get Richard Sherman. And Sherman's a big physical guy, too. You're not going to see Metcalf throw him off like, he did the Tampa defender. So
he's going to get at least one shot. They're going to give him at least one.
He'll get
maybe
shots.
2. He'll get one. And he may get it because it's Russell Wilson. But again, you can't just rely on that one play in a difficult matchup. You got to look, for positive matchups for those type of receivers.
Yep. All right, let's hit our weekly streams.
Weekly specials.
All right, I'm just going to keep it with the same game. I like Jimmy Garoppolo against Seattle. We just saw Jameis Winston have a huge game against Seattle. I don't expect the defense to be able to completely lock down Seattle's offense. I think Seattle is smart enough and good enough to find a way to score more points than teams have recently. I think it's going to keep Jimmy Garoppolo passing a little bit more. And, we just saw him not last week, but week before we saw him put up a big game. So, looking for a streamer. Jimmy Garoppolo is your guy against Seattle.
I have Sam Darnold, who I completely forgot to write notes for. They're going up at home, quote unquote, because it's the same stadium against the Giants here. The Giants they've been below average against quarterbacks this year. They haven't been the worst, but they clearly have not been the best. They've given up six passing touchdowns, over 1,000 yards over the past 4 weeks. Darnold has looked bad, so I would understand why people would be cautious to play him. But as you mentioned earlier in the show, we both expect this game to be kind of fantasy friendly on all accounts. You could get a bad game from Darnold. You could get a very boom game. You saw it against Dallas a few weeks ago, and you saw his bad games the last couple weeks. If your quarterback desperate and the waiver wire is barren, it's not the worst matchup in the world to throw Darnold out there.
Oh. All right. I've got OJ Howard against Arizona for my tight end stream. I mentioned it a little bit coming in, but Arizona's just been really bad against the tight end. I mean, that's basically what it boils down to. They have been terrible against the tight end. And while you do have the 2 outside wide receivers to take volume away, Cameron Brate is banged up. OJ Howard declared good to go right after Sunday's game. I expect this to be a fantasy relevant game for OJ Howard. And if it isn't, then, swear him off and don't expect any rest of the week. Because Arizona is, I think, majority of their weeks giving up double-digit points to tight end.
Yeah, they're just like the Bucs. They've given up 7 tight end 1 weeks through 9 games this year.
And going to the other side of that with Arizona's tight end against the Bucs.
With Max Williams. The tight end streaming landscape is it's brutal this week. I think this is the only positive matchup. But the Bucs, just like the Cardinals, have been really bad against tight ends this year, as I just mentioned. They've given up 7 tight end 1 weeks this year so far. The only reason why I went with Max Williams over Charles Clay is because Max saw a massive boost in snaps last week in a game that we were playing from behind, a game that we're trying to keep pace and playing from behind. You could see that again this week against another similar offense who can put up points in a hurry. Well, I don't absolutely love this call. Again, if you're looking for a tight end to stream in a good matchup, Max Williams is likely going to be available in all your leagues.
Absolutely. All right, let's hit. No, wait, we still got defenses.
Yes.
Okay. I had the Lions at Chicago. This is for no other reason than the fact that Chicago's offense has been completely inept. I mean, it's a rough week for streaming defenses. Honestly, there's nothing out there that looks like it's great or lockdown for defenses that are under 60% owned. So the Lions are floating around out there. They get an inept offense in Chicago. Who knows what Trubisky's going to do if they try to make him throw it. So should be sacks to be had at least. Not a ton of yardage put up. And they should give you some floor. But it's just kind of an ugly week for streaming defenses.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
And
I got the Jets. Because fuck it, we're going to keep going back to this game. We mentioned turnover prones. We mentioned ugly games. Daniel Jones has been pretty much the picture-perfect model of turnover-prone player and sack-prone. He's thrown 5 interceptions over his last 4 games and 2 picks over his last 3. He's also lost 5 fumbles over the same span of those 3 games. He's taken 16 sacks during that same span. And he's taken at least 2 sacks against them since week 5. While this game could go ugly, I do expect some points to be scored. So I would not expect the Jets to hold this Giants offense to minimal points. But when you're streaming fantasy defenses and you're kind of just looking through this tough week, you got to look where you can get some actual upside to it. There's some floor with the sacks, and I think there's a decent amount of upside with the amount of turnovers that Daniel Jones has been accounted for.
Yep. All right, and I'm going to turn around and do a beer review now because I forgot we were at in the script.
Turn around.
Every now and then I get a little bit lonely and you're never coming round.
Fucking turn around.
Beer review.
Every now and again. Yeah. Every fucking now and then I fall apart.
Because I fucking need you more than ever. All right. White Claw. Black cherry flavor. I will be honest. I was not expecting this much flavor on our seltzer because I've had Truly, and Truly does not have this much flavor onto it. Maybe it was the fruit that I had. I don't remember what it was. I was pretty hammered when I had it. It's not the worst thing in the world. For 5%, it actually you can taste kind of the boost to it, which is even more weird. But it's light. It's kind of refreshing. It's got a lot more flavor than what you would get from most of your flavored water or your flavored sparkling water like LaCroix or Buble. I understand why people drink this. 3 grams of carbs and 170 calories is there for all your basic white bitches out there. But it's not the worst thing in the world. I'm definitely losing beer drinking cred though as I'm sipping on this.
Yeah, just a bit, but that's what punishments are for.
Yeah.
All right.
You.
I had Hancock's President's Reserve bourbon. So starting off in traditional bourbon review fashion with the color, it is lighter than some others. That would lead me to believe it probably wasn't aged quite as long. There is no age statement on this, but it is kind of a lighter copper color. Lighter in ABV in proof as well at just 88.9. So not a ton of legs on this. From the smell, you kind of get the alcohol that pops through on it a little bit, but there is a hint of dark fruit, a little bit of almost kind of a leathery smell to it, which sounds bad, but is kind of pleasant on the back end. And then taste-wise, it kicks you with a lot of sweetness at first, kind of your traditional vanilla and brown sugar bourbon taste to it up front. And then you really kind of get a pleasant warmth as it, goes down the throat and into the chest and leaves your mouth with a little bit of kind of cinnamon and, again, that leatheriness popping through, slightly chewy, but not too bad. It's a very, very smooth drink, very, very clean sipper. This was aerated a little bit as it was open last week, but there's no water or ice in there. So pretty solid bourbon if you can find it. Like I said, it's not something that's marketed. You just kind of have to stumble across it. Not the best at the price point, but still very, very solid.
Word.
Word. All right, let's go ahead and hit you call it and call it a show.
You call it.
All right, I'm taking a page out of the damn playbook, and making my You Call It also one of my starts of the week. Something I don't normally do because of that punishment game, because if you miss, then you technically miss on 2 potential points. But anyway, Christian Kirk at 5,200. And if you want to know the reasoning for that, just go ahead and, well, you already heard it if you've been listening to this point in the show. If for some reason you skipped way ahead for this segment, back up a little bit.
I mean, just like with my pick here, he's at a price point that's good for cash games. In terms of bigger GPP plays, he may not be the most owned wide receiver out there. It just depends on how well you spend out. If you spend up a running back or tight end or whatever. But it's a good play this week for all games.
All right, and for my bet of the week, I'm looking at the Seahawks +6 against San Francisco, and this is a game that I don't know if it's going to be a barn burner. I don't know if it's going to be defensive, but I don't see the thing that's hardest for me to see is San Francisco running away with this one. I think they might win, but I do think this is going to be a close game. I think this is going to be a very, very good game. It's going to be playoff caliber. I think these two teams have the potential to line up well. I think you give the edge a bit to San Francisco on defense and to Seattle on offense. So that's going to be where the game's won or lost. But the 6-point spread on this, I think, is large enough for me to feel good about making that bet.
Yeah, it's a good line either way. A +6 is a bit much for an offense that's starting to click, especially in a just like you mentioned, in a game that could be a playoff and caliber type of game, and the true game that the Niners need to win to really put people on their side as being the best.
Well, put people on their side, but Seattle needs to win it also if they want to have a chance at any chance at the division and not playing playoff games on the road.
Yeah, I think with this is a good opening line because I think you can go either way. I think people who want San Francisco like the fact that it's under 7. And I think Seattle players out there have like if you think they're going to win, +6 is perfect for you. Gives you a touchdown, gives you a push at touchdown, but I still like it.
Yeah, for sure. And you're betting on Fitzmagic. The Dolphins lines are getting less ridiculous. So
yeah. So I normally stay away from these style of games. 10.5 for a bad team on the road against against a good opponent. But you got an injured, you got a potentially injured quarterback. You got a backup to him that's definitely prone to throwing pick sixes. The fact that Fitz can actually keep these Dolphins in games longer than they should. I think 10.5 is just a bit too much. I agree that they're going to probably lean, just as the Colts leaning on the running game to get them out of there. The Colts are going to win, but I don't see them winning by double-digit points. I think this is a game that they win by maybe 7, 6, maybe it gets gross and they win by 4. I wouldn't be too shocked if the Miami really takes it to them and actually makes this a game more so than the fact that they even have a chance to win at the end of the game. I think 10.5 is a bit too much. Colts also have been covered in the last 2 weeks, so not a fan there. Just in case if anyone missed my actual DFS call, David Montgomery 6,400 on FanDuel. Just like I was talking about Kirk, but it's the same thing in line with David Montgomery in that he's a great value for cash games, and I think his low ownership in GPP will also make him a popular play.
Yep. All right, that's all we got for you on the Check the Boxes Wednesday episode. So there's your starts and streams, and it's been one of the running transparency. I like to be transparent with our listeners. So it's been one of the running jokes with us about this episode is that it's very, very check the box. We're not doing anything different, and expect it to change next season. So
yeah, we're not. As much as we like telling you guys to do arguably the same thing week in and week out, we've grown past the traditional game script. You can say on a fantasy football podcast, I want to do something a little bit more different and unique.
And that's what it is the game script, and there's about 30 other places you can go to get opinions on starts and sits. So
God, 30?
At least.
3,000 places. Articles, like everyone's turning a new podcast every other day. So
At least. Yeah. Enjoy it while it's here. It's not to say we're not going to stop giving opinions on things we like. We just aren't going to force it. So,
It won't seem so. It won't seem so.
like, for example, I
just
really
skip
didn't
it.
want to give a tight end streamer this week because it's all terrible. So,
Yeah, right.
all right. That's all we got. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, you can follow the show at BeerfieldFF, Twitter, Instagram, Untapped, Beerfield Fantasy Football on YouTube. I am at HotBFF with 2 P's on the Twitter. Dan is at TheoryBFF with 2 F's on the Twitter. And we will be back on actually Sunday for the live stream.
You
Or
will be.
I will be.
I will be working. It's
So.
holiday season. I don't expect to have much for Sundays off as you ramp towards the craziness of retail during the holiday years.
Indeed. All right. Thank you guys. Catch you next time.
See ya.